In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I can't believe this. There's a camera going all through the Capitol. They're acting like, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just Prince Charles, King Charles. He got a promotion a couple of years ago. We've known this guy for decades. He's kind of dull. Do we want to listen? They're acting like it's the biggest thing in the world. Let's go ahead and listen. Or they just posing for pictures. Actually, neither one of them is talking. Neither one of them is talking. This is a photo op. Let's hear the press yelling questions. Hold on.
Trump just facing an assassination attempt. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Let's hear it.
The room where he is meeting with congressional leadership, including the House Speaker. Let's listen in for a moment.
I don't know how we'll fit in this room, but there was a lot of cameras up there.
They're just mumbling to each other. Speaker Johnson with the King.
Yes, all across the country.
And a lot of people.
So each member in the House represents about 760,000.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. This way.
They're kicking everybody out. All right, that's enough. I just don't understand the big deal. He's a man in the suit. It's not like he has real power in the UK. He can't, right? I mean, for old time's sake, I get it, kinda, but not really. Not really. So, this is an exciting moment. We're seeing the accountability that, quite frankly, we should have seen about a year ago. Maybe it has something to do with our friend Joe diGenova assuming a very important spot down there at the Department of Justice. Joe diGenova, frequent guest here on the show, a great U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. under President Reagan, and a great conservative and a great fighter for justice, had been on the sidelines for way too long during this administration, and he offered a lot of commentary on my programs. Guess who saw that? President Trump. And President Trump said, this is the kind of guy we need, because you can't let what happened before just go unaddressed. You can't let them get away with it. Justice, you have to punish. You have to deter. And they definitely committed, in my opinion, criminal acts. The Justice Department agrees. We have the indictment for David Morenz right here. I remember hearing the name a lot during COVID. Not so much now. I haven't heard of it in a while, but he's in trouble for trying to conceal and destroy documents that are our property, the American people's property. As for Comey, I hope it's there. You know what? There's probably going to be what they call a superseding indictment. There's going to be more than just this thing for 8647. Let me see what I got here. I want to get it from the Justice Department. Not yet. It's not yet on their website. Trump administration secures new indictment against Comey. Times. The new case stems from a photograph of seashells on a North Carolina beach. You'd think you were being cute. Now, this is the Times, so they're going to rip on him. The Justice Department has secured a new indictment of James Comey, the former FBI director, over a social media post after a past indictment effort spurred by President Trump last year ended in failure. Let's just skip that read up right now. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. You'll see the legal community all over television tonight talking about how this is an injustice, how President Trump is weaponizing, how so unfair. This is this is not that. You can make the case that what he did was a federal crime. 8647, with no regard to what those words would do to a guy like, I don't know, Cole Allen, the man, the shooter, right? You guys have been saying for years that President Trump is a threat, and then you say what you should do about the threat. what you should do about him, kill the guy. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing. FBI director, he is indicted. Let's see, prosecution effort collapsed last year. Yeah. And president, it doesn't matter. You know what? They'll say, well, the president has leaned on the prosecutors. He's the president. This is the executive branch. Constitutionally, it would be completely appropriate, constitutionally, for President Trump to walk into the court and bring these charges himself. Constitutionally, that would not be a problem. He is the executive branch. The Department of Justice, that's something the founding fathers never thought of the Department of Justice. It's a component of the executive branch. They are assistants to the president. Well, this is fabulous news. And James Comey, who I believe really enjoyed being rich, tall, and famous. They had a movie about him. A movie was made about that guy, and the big star, right, the guy from Dumb and Dumber, played him. This is a beautiful thing. Now, I want to get this thing together right now. Shoot, where do I have it? Hey, let's get Roger Stone on the phone. He's going to be jumping for joy about this as well. This is the same guy who dispatched the SWAT team to his house. Roger Stone. What did Roger Stone do? What was he even accused of doing? And they sent the SWAT team to Roger Stone's house. One of the worst, abuses of power that has ever taken place. All right, so this is great. We got this guy in big trouble, Comey, and let's not forget David Morenz, senior official, senior advisor to Fauci in the middle of it all. They were like pen pals and super close buddies. And the guy is totally lying here. You can tell he thinks he's smarter than Congress. We've been on to this guy for a while. I almost forgot about him. David Morenz, Morenz. COVID number 1, please.
Applied to that testimony, and if you made false statements, you could be subject to criminal prosecution. Do you recall that?
I recall
Your microphone's not on, I don't think. Yeah.
Do I keep it on or only when I talk?
Whenever you're talking, yes.
Okay. Sorry, I remember you telling me, I think what you're referring to is telling me that even though I wasn't under oath, I was bound to tell the truth. Is that what you said?
Yes, and that you could be subject to criminal prosecution.
Yes, you told me that.
Okay. Today you are under oath, and we will be comparing your statements today to those you gave previously. The majority of my questions today will be simple yes or no questions. On April 21, 2021, you wrote, I can either send stuff to Tony Fauci on his private email or hand it to him at work or at his house. Did you ever send information related to COVID-19 to Dr. Fauci's personal email?
I don't remember if I did. I may have, but I certainly told him some things that he asked me to tell him about the situation with Peter.
Thank you. On May 13th, 2021, you wrote that you connected a reporter to Dr. Fauci via your secret back channel. What back channel did you have for Dr. Fauci?
Well, all these terms like secret back channel and the other one you mentioned were just jokes. Just, jokes that I made in dealing with Peter because he was under death threats and was very depressed. And it was sort of the group of people who were Peter's friends were trying to cheer him up by making
Stop that for a second.
Jokes.
They always use that as an excuse. Death threats. He was receiving death threats. And who is he receiving death threats from? What is the message there? They're not death threats, by the way. All right. But the message is, it's coming from, MAGA boneheads, like me and you, right? That we're calling for. No, we never did that. Now, we made fun of these guys on social media, right? We abused them metaphorically about the face and breast, chest, neck, and head. I enjoyed doing that. And it needed to be done. James Comey drafted Hillary Clinton's exoneration letter before interviewing any key witnesses. Now, this is really a beauty right here, too. This man, I hope we get him on more than just than just this thing in the sand. Then again, what did they get Al Capone on? What did they get Al Capone on? Income tax, right? Income tax evasion. All right. Beautiful day for America and a gutsy day for the Department of Justice. Now, you got to remember this about James Comey. All right. Now, this is a sequence. A guy named Michael Horowitz, who's a fair weather friend, but he finally wrote the book. He's the Inspector General of the Department of Justice a while back. And he finally kind of wrote the report that needed to be written on James Comey. Now, we held back, and he played all kinds of games, Horowitz did. But Comey, you'll remember, butted into the 2016 election, not once, but twice, and made a spectacle out of himself and damn near destroyed the Bureau in the process. Go ahead with this, please.
And that is a presumption we should accept in nearly every single facet of life. As we read this report, we're reminded of Jim Comey's decision to hold a July 5th press conference and appropriate the charging decision away from the prosecutors.
That Trey guy.
We see Jim Comey drafting an exoneration memo before important witnesses like the target were even interviewed. Ironically, this Inspector General has been accused of softening or watering down his report, when the reality is it was Jim Comey who softened and watered down his press release announcing no charges against Secretary Clinton. We see Jim Comey and Jim Comey alone deciding which DOJ policies to follow and which to ignore. We see Jim Comey and Jim Comey alone deciding whether there is sufficient evidence to support each and every element of an offense. We see Jim Comey and Jim Comey alone deciding whether to send a letter to Congress in the throes of a looming election. Now, his justification for this is that he did not have confidence in the objectivity of Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Whether it was her asking him to refer to this case as a matter rather than an investigation, or her meeting with Bill Clinton while Hillary Clinton was under investigation, or the matter he has alluded to but claims he cannot discuss publicly, clearly Jim Comey had lost confidence in the DOJ to handle the case in a way worthy of public trust. But that leads us to the one thing we did not see Jim Comey do, which was take any steps to spur the appointment of special counsel in the Hillary Clinton investigation. When he lost confidence in the Trump Justice Department, he memorialized private conversations, he leaked them, and he admitted he did so to spur the appointment of special counsel because he didn't trust the career prosecutors at the Department of Justice. When he lost confidence in the Obama Justice Department, he didn't make special memos. He didn't share them with his law professor friends. He didn't leak the information. He didn't lift a finger to get special prosecutor. Instead, he appointed himself FBI director, attorney general, special counsel, lead investigator, and the general arbiter of what is good and right in the world, according to him. Now, one of the last times I spoke with Director Comey was in a committee hearing. We had a pointed exchange on what I thought was the FBI making decisions based in part on politics. And he, in his typically sanctimonious way, told me that he disagreed. He said the men and women of the FBI do not, quote, give a hoot about politics. Unfortunately, and I use that word intentionally, unfortunately, he was dead wrong. There were agents and attorneys at the FBI who gave a lot more than a hoot about politics.
Well, it gives you a taste. And I think he's about to go into Strzok and Page, right? Oh, we'll stop him. He's not going to become president. No, we'll stop him. The FBI will stop him. They think they're better than we are. Still, by the way, we're not out of the woods. We got some good guys at the top, but there is rot in the middle of that building. I think there's something in the water. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. A glorious moment when James Comey, there's a piece of paper that says United States of America versus James Comey. I love it. That's the front page of an indictment. And also the United States of America versus David Morenz. That's you and me versus David Morenz, who was trying to lie to the entire world about COVID and doing it with his co-conspirator, Fauci. Amazing. Be right back.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So What's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, the woman who called me was all upset about the guy eating the food. I found out his name, and actually I've met him before. His name is Michael Glantz. He's a TV agent, represents a lot of people like Wolf Blitzer, some news people. And he was apparently, he said, the room felt totally safe to me. And there was armed people everywhere, so he didn't have a problem. He knew he was safe, and he's eating. I'm not a big fan of this guy, and I have my issues with him. But one of those issues is not that he ate the rest of his meal at that dinner. It's actually, in a weird way, kind of cool when you think about it. Let me see here. Yes, Lauren, how are you? What is it?
Hey, Greg. Thank you for your objective comments and your anger over what transpired at that meeting. Why weren't agents directly behind the stage and in front of the table? And why weren't they radioed to, like, over their earpiece? Why weren't they informed immediately and immediately got out to the table? They should have been right there. How come they weren't communicated to? I'm watching agents running down the aisle and jumping over on chairs. It's like, communication 101. There should be agents in charge of communicating immediately to the agents and security right there by President Trump and the table. I didn't see anybody right in front of the table or behind the curtain that came out immediately. Why weren't they communicated to?
Well, they were. Look, there were shots. They were in another room. They had to be radioed, right? It happened in another room. You couldn't clearly hear the shots. Look, there's a lot that went wrong. Now, the problem I have with the initial response there, not that it was that long, because it really wasn't that long. It was only a couple of seconds. The guys did get to Vance before the guys got to Trump, but it was anemic. There was only one guy, right? There was one guy in front, one guy behind. Now, at this point, when I hear shots fired, and I'm in the Secret Service, we're getting the gosh damn protectee, the president, out of there immediately, out of there. So they should have all swooped in. It wasn't that it took them so long to get to the president, in my opinion. It's what they did when they got there. Nothing. All right. They just kind of they waited. They waited and they waited and waited. And for other people to get into position, President Trump is sitting and he's elevated. Everybody else is on the floor. Everybody else is off their chair or off the stage, yet he's still in the chair. That's the part. It's not, it got to the word got to them pretty quick. Okay. Do you understand that?
Well, all I can say is I saw with my own eyes, on different.
Well, you have to understand when the shot actually happened. They come out, but I'm with you. Not enough people came out, and they needed to move him right away, and they didn't. But from the shot to the actual reaction, that's not the problem. And we also have to remember, we can't expect miracles. It sounds easy. It often isn't. But yes, they totally screwed up. But that wasn't that bad, that one thing.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. Hey, we are back, and I am so glad that the piece that I wrote about the Secret Service has penetrated the very highest circles of our government. And this is it's very gratifying. You can look at it for yourself at Greg Kelly USA, at Greg Kelly USA. I posted it there. Greg Kelly Substack. You can look for it that way. There are a million ways you can find it. It's on my X right now, X account. I'm actually not calling it Twitter anymore. I'm calling it X. And let me see here. Somebody says the first thing, champagne bottle hit the floor. Then the second, it was improvised. I know that because I ordered the wine. Some people they're going after everybody for what everybody did at that damn party. Some people drank wine. Some people ate a pie. Some people One guy escorted his wife out. One guy didn't. One guy, everybody, gosh, everyone is nitpicking all the stupid stuff. And the important stuff is like kind of just on beyond. A correspondent from a network I will not name picked up 2 bottles of wine on the way out, full bottles, one in each hand. She was wearing heels. I mean, give me a break. They're just talking about people who took, oh my God. The agent's vest cost approximately $800. The wine that left the building was worth $11,000 at restaurant markup. The guest saved more in wine than the vest saved the agent. I mean, it's just a little bit nuts. I don't care how they behaved at the party. It's a party. You can get drunk. People steal stuff. I don't care. I only care about the president's safety. Now, I want everybody to be safe, but the president was a target, and so was his cabinet. And, folks, this has got to change. It's got to change immediately. It's got to change in a big way. And I hope that my piece here on my Substack is going to help. And I'm going to run it by you again. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Got to go through my little thing there. Okay, here we go. We all know what a participation trophy is. It's what you give kids when nobody wins. No score, no goalie, no consequences. Everyone did great. Everyone gets something shiny. And the whole point is to make sure no one feels bad. Fine, they're children. But watching the reaction to the attempted assassination of President Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you start to see that same instinct showing up in a place where it absolutely does not belong. Before the facts are fully established, before timelines are clear, before anyone has really taken a hard look at what happened, the praise begins. The Federal Bureau of Investigation says the country should rest assured the response was heroic. The United States Secret Service emphasizes that its multi-layered protection works. Sean Curran, the director of the Secret Service, appeared that night and assured everyone the system worked. He provided no facts. He reminded us how difficult the job is and asked for prayers for an officer who wasn't even wounded and for his fellow uninjured colleagues. The talk of bravery becomes a smokescreen for incompetence, and the press follows that tone. This is not an area where journalists rush to challenge federal law enforcement in real time. It is far more common to defer, to wait, to repeat. That restraint is worth noticing because we have all seen something very different in other situations. When the victim fits a certain narrative, when the victim is young and black or a migrant, the scrutiny is immediate and relentless. Here, it is not. No one should be impressed with what they saw that night, starting with the evacuation of the stage. Vice President Vance was off the stage while President Trump was still in his chair. In fact, nearly everyone had either cleared the stage or taken cover while the president remained seated. The only one still in a chair, the target, remaining in the highest position. Even Oz the mentalist was out of harm's way. This is not how it's supposed to be. President Trump has said part of the delay was his decision, that he wanted to see what was happening. He has also expressed confidence in the Secret Service. That is understandable. He works closely with his detail and is not in a position to publicly disparage the people responsible for his safety. But that explanation should not be necessary. Deeply embedded Secret Service lore tells us it is supposed to be different. Move first, explain later. When it matters, they don't ask. He came around my desk, grabbed me by my belt, and hurled me down the hallway. Vice President Dick Cheney has described being physically moved out of his office on September 11th. No consultation, no delay, feet barely touching the ground. Agents believed a plane was inbound, and they acted. When President Ronald Reagan was shot, Agent Jerry Parr did not ask permission. He shoved the president into the car and made the decision. That is the standard. It was never, sir, it's time to go. It's move. They threw Dick Cheney down the hall. Why so delicate with President Trump? Rushing the checkpoint. Outside the ballroom where the shooting occurred, the failure was even more basic. You do not need a badge or a briefing to understand it. Checkpoints are a part of daily life. Office buildings, airports, concerts, government facilities. You line up, you are screened, you pass or you do not. The equipment is in place. The people are engaged, and there is no ambiguity about whether the system is functioning. Which is why the phrase we kept hearing, the shooter charged the checkpoint, is generous, because what we saw was not a checkpoint. It was a group of uniformed individuals hanging around while the central piece of screening equipment, the metal detector, was on the ground in pieces being taken apart like roadies breaking down after a concert. Except this was not the end of the night. It had barely begun. So what exactly was being checked and where? The officers present were not manning a checkpoint. They were there, but they were not engaged. There was no vigilance, no alert posture. Heads were not up. Attention was not outward. What you saw instead was something relaxed, familiar, human. The job softens. The conversation drifts. Work, weekend, sports, gossip. Nothing malicious, just completely unacceptable in that moment. And that is how serious failures actually happen. This is not an office, and that was not a checkpoint. It was what it looks like when protectors literally let their guard down. Airplanes used to crash for this exact reason. Cockpit voice recorders captured pilots talking about everything: sports, politics, dating, cars, during critical flight operations. Not because they were reckless, but because they were human. Attention drifts. That is why the Federal Aviation Administration imposed the sterile cockpit rule, prohibiting non-essential conversation during critical phases of flight. Apply that here. When a protectee is present, you are on, period. No talk about weekends, no sports, no overtime, no gossip, nothing that is not the job. 25 years ago, during my first presidential interview of President Bill Clinton in Binghamton, I tried a bit of small talk with an agent. Do you know Brian Smith? The answer came back instantaneously, loud and flat. No. End of conversation. I felt embarrassed, and then I understood. He's guarding the most important man in the world. Anything can happen at any time. That was the mindset. This is not the first time for all of this. What happened in Butler, Pennsylvania went beyond incompetence. It amounted to horrendous failure, timing, positioning, response. And there were no serious reforms afterward. The message was simple. Trust us. It won't happen again. Now we are seeing the same pattern. Reassurance first, explanation later, accountability maybe. That is not a coincidence. It's habit. President Trump may be satisfied. That is his position. But he is not the client. We are. We pay for this. We rely on it. The purpose of this system is not to simply protect a man. It's to ensure that the country has a functioning president. If that system fails, it's not a private matter. It's a national one. The questions here are not obscure. They are obvious. They may be uncomfortable for federal law enforcement, but that is not the public's problem. And what we saw last night was not good enough, not close. If that's where things are, this is not about one night or one mistake. It's about a system that is no longer performing at the level it requires. Systems like that do not correct themselves. They fail again unless something changes immediately and drastically. What do you think, guys, huh? What do you think? What are you shrugging your shoulders for? People are going to give me medals for this and lots of money. I'm going to be, this is Pulitzer Prize stuff. No, I actually just like it. I like it. And a very prominent professor just told me how much he likes it, and I'm very pleased with myself. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I must say I kind of like that Comey got indicted, but I'm a little bit, the 86-47 thing. Can they make that stick? I bet they can, actually. He's not going to get jail time. You could find a way to convict him. You could. That's not a freedom of speech thing. That is a threat against a public official. It's 86 goes right back to 86, cancel, take out, stop. With his social media following, with his prominence, he's a law enforcement person. His girlfriend, Nicole Wallace, always talks about President Trump being a threat to democracy. They knew what they were doing, and that's not cute. By the way, if you want to read my piece in full, granted, I just read it to you, Greg Kelly on Substack, or go to my X account at Greg Kelly USA. I want to make sure Mark Levin gets my thoughts on all of this, because there will be a rush. I can already see it. Something horrendous happened the other night. Something horrendous happened in Butler. Something happened in West Palm Beach. And not for nothing, what's up with the marksmanship? What's up with the marksmanship? Yeah, they fired 5 rounds the other night. They didn't hit the guy. How does that happen? They fired a bunch of rounds at the guy at the golf course. They missed him. How does that happen? What's going on? And that man was on the roof for 20 minutes. Everybody saw him, but nobody did anything. Even the cops saw him. and they just gossiped about him. We have a desperate, immediate problem, and it must be fixed, please. All right, I'm doing my part, but I need action. We all do. All right, 1 second, please.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, they're going after our man there, Lee Zeldin, the EPA chief. Who's hassling him? That crazy blue-haired congresswoman. You know, the one who's like 90? What is her deal? Why is she yelling at him? All right, we'll have that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and find that. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Let's see what we got going on here. Linda, how are you?
Hi, Greg. I'm good. You had mentioned about COVID-19. You know, I can't believe it's 2026, 6 years after we were hit with this man-made virus. But I'm in the healthcare industry, and back in May 2020, after hundreds of my patients, geriatric patients, had died because of the policies in place in New Jersey, we knew that COVID-19 was a man-made virus. We knew that the whole sequence was decoded, and we saw the synthetic man-made part that was put into that virus to make it as lethal as it was. Could have been a lot more lethal, and there are much more viruses that are being worked on right now that are definitely more lethal. And the NIH funded this. We know the NIH funded this in the Wuhan lab. And also, the NIH had taken out a patent in 2019 to develop a COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's unusual, because if you have this virus that could be eventually released, you want some kind of a vaccine. But this is all very well known. So now for years, I've said this, because I had to take continuing education courses, not only to educate myself, but just to know what the hell was going on with this virus. And the top scientists, and there's a tremendous amount in the scientific community who knew that this was a man-made virus, and the United States had a lot to do with it. And it was definitely purposely released, I believe.
Well, all right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, we knew we were speculating, and when they came down hard on our speculation about the man-made Wuhan, and they said you couldn't say that on Facebook, it's a conspiracy theory. I mean, and how dare they? It's been verified, and that's what happened. There was one other thing that you were there. Oh, whether it was deliberately released or not. Look, Mr. Gordon Chang doesn't put it past China, you know? And did these guys, look, everything should be on the table, everything. Right now, they got David Morenz on a very small thing, but it's significant at the same time, you know, destroying records. And that's bad news. All right, you doing okay otherwise, Linda?
Yes, I'm doing okay otherwise, but I have to say that all of us that were forced to take the COVID vaccinations, like myself, to go back to work, I developed heart issues right after the second vaccination with the first dose. You have to take 2 doses. And my cardiologist...
Your cardiologist said what?
They refused to acknowledge that any of my heart issues started after that. So it's just ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous.
It is. You know what? I got the vaccine. I regret it. I regret it so much. I haven't had any heart issues, but we know that a lot of people have. I'm always about the choice. It's a choice. The mandate that you had to undergo just to work, totally unconstitutional, totally outrageous. Stay in touch with you, Linda. Steve is standing by. Hi, Steve. Is he there?
Greg.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, Greg. All right. Some good news today. Look, if the Republicans are going to win in midterms, 2 things have to happen. We got to get the independent a lot. But for that even, got to energize the base. The base has been, and I consider me the base, all right? We want to see people held accountable who broke the law going after Trump and his supporters. And why this becomes even more important as time goes on. You've heard people like Susan Rice and even Eric Swalwell say, well, when we're back in power, we're coming after you, all right? Kelly was probably the same thing. So if we don't see some heads rolling here, and those people broke the law on the other side, on the left, if we don't see that, we sit back and we say, we the base, say, why should we get out there and fight
All right.
you?
You know what? I mean, I'm sorry. Look, there are more important. I mean, I want what you want, but I'm not going to, like what you say there. It sounds arrogant to me. We're the base. Why should we come out and vote if you didn't do this? I mean, what are you, children? I consider myself MAGA through and through. Look at what the other side has in store. So if you don't see the accountability, we know he's working for it, right? We know he's trying to do it. We also know that there's a hell of a lot of resistance. And this thing with 86-46 may or may not be successful. President Trump, it's an uphill fight. He may be the president of the United States. You think you can pick up the phone and say, do the right thing. It's not that easy. It's just not that easy, Steve. So I'm going to have to cut him some slack. I want it. But I don't think like the base is demanding it. You know what I mean? I think the base should be easy with their demands. Look at what this man has done. Look at what the risks he has incurred. Look at what the left has to offer. And the base has to be entertained or something like that. It has to be coaxed. We have to give them some goodies here. I don't like the way you framed it. I like you, Steve. I just don't like the way you framed it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Greg. But I want you to understand. I'm going out and voting. I
know. You're talking about other people and that kind of thing. But still, the mindset is a little bit. Listen, I got some other callers. I appreciate it, pal. I got to run. Mike, hello.
Hi, Greg. Trey Gowdy is a skunk. Can't stand him. He's a Paul Ryan guy.
Did you call him scum?
A skunk.
Oh, a skunk. Well, he looks like one a little bit with that hairdo. Hey, man, I'm not vouching for everything the guy ever did, but I thought he was pretty decent when he was cross-examining that Inspector General. I mean, I know he holds his nose around Trump. I know he plays footsie with the left and the Paul Ryans and all that stuff. I know. I also know he was pretty good on Benghazi. Not everybody is perfect. Not everybody agrees with you on everything or me on everything. You know what I mean? Got to kind of accept that a little bit. Trey Gowdy made an important contribution when he could make an important contribution. I appreciate that part of it. Thank you, pal. Morty, hello. Is he there?
Greg, I just wanted to comment before really quick about what that woman said about the response from the Secret Service. I didn't quite see a response from the video I saw from the Secret Service. I mean, I saw them on top of a bunch of people, but what I did see was I saw tons of guys in SWAT gear and Army gear and different guys in different sectors, and they're each communicating with each other, covering. All you see is them moving around. You ever see guys clear rooms, spec ops guys clear rooms on YouTube or whatever, and they do it methodically and surgically. That's exactly what these people were doing. I mean, all you see is these guys, they're not flagging anybody with their rifles. They're moving, they're moving tight and secure. And all you hear is clear here, corner this, and they did it. I mean, like you said, it was over as soon as it began.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I didn't quite say that. I must say, I thought there were too many of those uniformed guys running around. I thought they almost had, they had too much. And those who they had weren't effective. I think they get sometimes carried away with the body armor and the counter assault team and the initial assault team. And, you get all this stuff and you feel like you got to use it. And in the moment of truth, now this is what may have happened here. Instead of moving President Trump, what did they do? They waited for the counter assault team to show up. So you left them on stage for 10 more seconds while the counter assault team showed up. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, it almost defies logic. It does defy logic. I think they have procedures for all this stuff. Did you see how quickly and almost elegantly they got Vance off the stage? You saw that, right?
Yes, I did. But also to your point about the guys in the gear, they were there, but it's also they weren't there until they were in the room. Like you know what I mean? You couldn't tell that they were there until they all showed up in the room. That's what I'm talking about. Like they were out of sight, out of mind.
Well, that's fine, but I think is that good? Maybe you want these guys conspicuous. I don't know. I just know it was a complete failure. Morty, I highly recommend you go to my my Instagram. What the hell is it again? My Substack. Greg Kelly Substack. And on X, at Greg Kelly USA. John, you call me back tomorrow, and the rest of you too. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?